order the regular meeting of the Middle East Public Library Board of Trustees. We will start by reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. Stand. Before we get going, do we have any additions to the agenda?
I move to amend the agenda to make an addition for personnel discussions.
Right, I will show that the agenda amended, I'll just add it as 11.2 under their older new business and kind of break it.
Personnel discussion.
Personnel discussion.
You
I think I can just amend it, right? Yeah, okay, so we'll just show in the minutes to add personnel discussions as 11.2. Any other additions to the agenda? All right, then I'll move to approve the agenda as amended. Second. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, we'll now move on to the consent agenda. We'll accept a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
All right, all in favor of approving the consent agenda? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, and I have a note here. It's Diane's retiring after 25 years. 2 years ago.
I want to know that.
Well, pass along our thanks for her service. All right, no items were removed from the consent agenda, so I'll move past that. All right, claims and warrants. I'll start by moving to approve the claims and warrants. So we have any discussion if we need to. I'll second it. All right. The discussion. All right, then all in favor of approving the claims and warrants? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. No. Right, I'll now move on to the next item in our agenda, which is the 2023 Patron Experience Survey presentation.
You're faster than I was.
Thank you for having me in a few minutes just to talk through the survey this evening. I'm going to go over basically the survey from the satisfaction and then the analysis of the response comments. All right. So as a reminder, the survey ran from November 6th to 19th in 2023. So as we passed our minds back, there were some things that were happening. So we'll see in our report and our pre-report. So this is very little time. We ran the survey, we offered it in print in the libraries, very few takers in print, almost everybody was on the survey motion online. This year was heavily promoted on our website, so you'll see we have a big jump in responses. But also reflected on. This is the 5th year that we've been collecting this data, so you're going to see that longitudinal data for all those years. We've largely used the same questions. Occasionally we would ask a special question, we did not here. So I anticipate we will in 24, taking probably something for the Crossroads Discovery Center or some of our new in those years. The other questions are the same. So you can see the huge jump. From 2019, we had 84 responses, right around 1900. We also had quite a number of spam responses, almost as many. So those have to be weeded out for this number. What's 1900? All right, so just a quick peek at some demographic information that we collected, mostly just to see that if our product pool matches up with our service area. So we have our pretty much does. You can see we track right along. And of course, seeing matches kind of our use patterns as well. So race and primary library data. And then age and zip code. Age is the only one where we don't limit up, but then again, most of the time girls don't fill up the base. So, yeah, but we expect not too surprised by that. Now, let's look at the overall ratings. So we asked about 4 areas. Customer service, our interior spaces, library materials, and technology. I do want to point out that in 2019, we had that on a 5-point scale. So don't look at those numbers and think that we dropped dramatically there. You can see though that we did either hold steady or drop a little bit from 22 to 23. You know, I think we'll see some of that reflected in the responses and the overall scores for certain areas, specific areas. But also a huge jump in the number of survey takers could be responsible for a little bit of that. And generally we get people to take a survey when they're really happy or when they're really not. Right? It's not so then, each question that we asked also had an option for did not use or do not know about, you know, that kind of thing. So what this part of showing here is, the most and least common experiences based on that. So if most people said did not use, you know, that's somewhere in these areas. You know, the sort of traditional library services we're asking about, you'll see are common from finding a librarian, checking out materials, documents of the librarians. Some of the lesser used areas are media, which I think will change in 2024. And some of them are non-traditional services like other computers. So this is just to give you an idea of like that range of what's, you know, so as we look to make improvements or changes, we want to be targeting those. Making a big impact. Ooh, I think there we go. Customer service. So this is where we asked about how easy it is to find a library staff member, how easy it is to contact the library in general, and how helpful were staff can be found. So you can see again, this is reflected here as a very highly used part of our services. And just but a small drop. And this area, we got some constructive feedback on some of these things, that you'll see next year, that I think our team can really use to see those rates go up. But again, part of the perennial construction, so, you know, that may be reflected in these scores. So in the pre-response section for customer service, we just asked what would you like us to know? What are customer service? We received 932 comments in this section. And what I hope that you can see is that the big green bar said that most people were really satisfied with the help process. And that's something we're very proud of. That was overwhelming there. I did pull out just a couple sample comments you can read there. I tried to pull one that was positive and one that constructive, but we can do something with this. And even that one that's constructive, I think is largely good. It's just giving us something to work with. The next section on this question about our interior spaces, so primarily asking about the cleanliness of our spaces, how well they're maintained, and how the library is a place to study. So again, those more traditional things, library traditional services are heavily used. The space to create is not necessarily used in this area, but again, this survey was asking about patient experience, not programming. So I think we would see that change in our programming. And you can see that by and large, one of the things we've heard a lot is that it's clean, even though you're under construction. Okay, 746 people gave us responses to the interior spaces question. Overwhelmingly, it was get done with construction. That's even the ones that were like, love this library. When will it be done? So that's that big. I think see that being in the 24th. Sample comments. Materials we broke down into two sections. We asked quite a few questions about materials, so we broke it down into the questions themselves and then how it answers. Questions broken down into print materials, online ebooks or databases. 80 questions, and then non-traditional materials, which would be like Ignite kits or hot pots, and things like that. And that's what's considered non-traditional. So again, it doesn't surprise me that the most used is print on here. In the digital ebooks. So you see some of the boards in this area matches up with what we found in our strategic planning surveys as well, and the work we did through there. There are things we know, and there are things that our teams have already been working on. So again, this was November. I think if we were to take a survey again today, we'd see already from work that they've done. It has to do with things like missing gaps in series, or long hold weights, or if we have an ebook on release date, or it's taking a while to get it, those kind of things. So, and we're working on them already. That was the end of the 24. Process is how easy it is to find materials. Using our library catalog, using our account, how the whole process works, everything related to them. Again, traditional core services are heavily used, and something we hear a lot in surveys. I didn't know you could use request. I didn't know you could request an item. So the survey is kind of working as a marketing. People are really happy with the checkout. One thing that I think kind of took the most comments in this area was about the library app. And we can kind of announce tonight that we will have a new app launching in May. So we expect that will be kind of turn around some of that feedback. Right. So 851 people gave us responses to what they would like to tell us about materials offered by UPs. And again, you can see that the blue bar related mostly again to the Jackson series, full weight times, things like that. So we are the second one that talks about somebody just going out and buying it. Not what we want to hear, but I know that can be an option for people. And the last one, doesn't really have to do with something, but I had it in mind. Even the comment readers. Library technology. So the next question asks about the government space, as well, on the events calendar. One thing I want to point out here is this, and November 1st is when we switch the new events calendar. So, the feedback on that was a little hard to parse because I wasn't sure if they were talking about the new one, the old one. We don't know the last time we did it, so it's probably about the other thing I think in this area to point out is that Wi-Fi and insurance is frequently called out as unstable or slow. We know that as well. And we are working on a way to upgrade and add additional wireless equipment. And staff will be very happy to do it. The last question was just to ask about some other services and experiences. So again, this is not the programming survey, but we did ask they learn programs, they use the Ignite studio or room. So again, not surprised to see a lot of you not used to some of this survey. I think we will see that. Anyone. But there's a lot of love for Ignite studio. So all the comments were very good. And I we'll see the same thing first. That is just a brief overview of anything. I'm happy to answer any questions about those or dive into any more detail.
Is it early mid-November that we do the survey each year?
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
So it's
Somewhere probably that. I don't know if it'll be exactly
on the weights folds time, did the comments give you any insights whether that's electronic materials or hard traditional paper materials?
It is both, but it's primarily. And I think that's because, we're all in this mode of I'm home, I want to read it right now, I can get it, like why can't I get it right now? Like it's different than having into the library.
were there any results that you think the board should take up and talk about in terms of improvement, or the administration should look at in terms of take action on essentially?
I think the biggest areas of impact are the material availability that we talked about that we are already working on. I would say that, yes, if that doesn't turn around in the 24 survey or maybe the 25 survey, then we need to look more into that, but I do expect it to improve. Some of the feedback, again, is going to go out to all the managers. We've talked about this already with staff and leadership team. So they'll have the feedback to work with their teams as well. So I think there's some constructive areas around customer service and I don't want to experience here that will need, for attention. Again, overall, it's very positive, 90+, that's the thing, very, very good. So, yeah, we'll see what 24.
Any further comments or questions? Thank you so much. All right, we'll now move on to our next agenda item, which is a renovation update. We have Kevin or Greg. It's Greg back there.
Good evening. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Had a couple of really good meetings today, with both the contractors and local officials. This is the summary I sent out just the other day, the model. We have a copy of this. And we've got, the project meetings this morning really to follow us to start the process of primarily Noblesville phase 2 work. We had a meeting with Arnold Turner today, also Peter Fishers for there hasn't been any real changes since the previous.
I have someone signaling, I'm not sure they can hear you well as your microphone working.
Right, I'm on here. Is it everyone already know? Or just get a little. Thank you.
They usually never have any problem.
You're great. Thank you.
Anyways, in the last couple of months, really haven't had any construction indoor issues. Things been kind of moving along okay. Snow plus on minus. At progress meeting, we had previously since that point in time, that was Ferguson on their completion of the children's program room, with the exception of a couple of paint areas and painting the front doors and moving the film on those doors. That area is pretty much complete. So we can look at Ferguson being finished at here. Our further continuing on, you can see the construction work out here. The primary work is panel system going out, and it's a slow meticulous process. The end result is really good. They look to complete that by April 8th. So that's been a slow go, but it's there. Currently, our turn is also working on a punch list. We put out in April of last year. And it's been some progress has been made, but they're determined to get that completed in a couple of weeks. So we'll be able to close that out in a short period of time. The interior lobby, you see the lobby is open, we still have lots of work going on. And work outside that's going to hinder public access, at least for a little while. However, a couple of weeks ago, when we met, we set the date of May 15th as an absolute open date for the south entrance. And that's primarily to coincide with the opening of the building, the construction. State our alternative, they would be ready by the end of April. So they'll have everything essentially buttoned up, completed and finished by that time, interior and exterior. No, actually, the data. the site signage, we know the essential signs, they're gonna put the light canopy panels that fit in between the columns, both Noblesville and Fisher here. In the next couple of weeks, we can start that process. Some of the challenges we're still working with, as of course, are the firewall. The deletion of that firewall, all that documentation been submitted to the state. We've actually talked to the state plan review director to try to speed that process along a little bit. So I'm confident in the next week or so we'll have that approval, and that'll take us down the next step to closing out the Fisher's project. Noblesville, WR Duncan contacted us the other day about closing out their contract. They're still owed about $250 some thousand on the contract. They've now completed their punch list items, and they're preparing final closing documents, which is as-built documents specification, and those documents must be submitted first to be approved. Once approved, we can authorize final payment to WR and close the project. Phase one. Ferguson, been in Noblesville lately. It looks much nicer now. Pretty all the finishes in the Indiana room are installed. There's still some cleanup work. The CRDC interactive space is pretty much completed as far as technical work. There's some lighting and finishing going on with the blue panels within that space that kind of have the operating entryway. Probably the biggest next step really is for reinstallation of shelving and furniture in that space. Since we're cleaned up now, we anticipate that being up to the second, third week in April. After that, archive room will be relocated out of the temporary exhibit space back into its permanent home in the archive storage room. And then Ferguson will work on putting down the flooring and final finishing the temporary exhibit space. So that seems all on track. Probably the biggest thing in Noblesville right now is Ferguson put out an updated schedule in February saying their completion date will be sometime mid-August. They feel confident right now that they can approve on that date sometime. Didn't give us a date, but some 8 weeks earlier than that, probably July. We know that some of the other areas of Noblesville, like the lower level youth services staff areas, those are also being completed by June 1st or summer school and all that kind of work. So I think we're on track there. I feel pretty confident. I think they do too. A lot of the advantage and the increase in speed of the work on the first floor level of all the shelving moves and finishes really came about when the planes moving storage actually employed a moving system that's a hydraulic that actually lifts the entire shelving unit up loaded, and they can ship them around the space very easily. That's set it up in 5 days. So that's very much appreciated and makes up that. Any questions on the media?
So Greg. All right, well, thank you so much, Jeff. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move to the next item on our agenda, which is a discussion of the feasibility study. So I guess I can start that off. The long range planning committee has met with 3 potential candidates for owners representatives, which are contractors who essentially assist in the implementation of ours through the construction process. And for here, the construction will be a potential 3rd branch. The first kind of item we look for help with an owner's representative would be to conduct a feasibility study. So we own that property on the over towards the Hamilton Town Center on the east side, and we wanted to do essentially a demographic study to ensure that 1, it makes sense to do a 3rd branch, and 2, that would be a good location for a 3rd satellite branch. So we interviewed 3 potential owner representatives, and the committee has considered, I think, 2 of them as good candidates. I know Melissa's emailed some additional information that the committee was looking for from the owner representative candidates, and we have proposals from them. And it's still slightly unclear, apples to apples, what the proposals will be covering. So our proposal kind of going into this meeting for the board is to potentially set up some additional conversations with the full board with Veritas and JSL, who are kind of final. Right, it's just being our finalist, so we can hear from them, and then that'll give us some time to kind of get some clarification on the proposals. And that's not a big deal because we're kind of not a deadline, but it's out of our control when our bond rolls off, so we have plenty of time. So we want to get this right because whoever we go with, unless something goes wrong with the demographic study and the first steps, we probably have a strong likelihood of going with for the duration of the project. So we want to get this right. So that would be our suggestion. Anything, Kim? So, Melissa or Molly?
Just that we were thinking of doing it at the April board meeting so that we're not adding an additional meeting to our meeting.
Yeah, I agree. We don't need to do that. All right, any discussion or questions on that topic? All right. Then we'll move on to the director's report.
Okay, so the first item on there was the survey, and Molly went over that. And then I think we're going to discuss the security consultant update at another agenda item. So I'll get down to the food for souls. This is an organization that was recommended to us by Nevilleville Police. They have a mobile outreach bus where they do, it's like a food pantry, and they've been working out of one of the church parking lots in Nevilleville, and it was too small of a space, and Nevilleville Police recommended that they contact us. So we've been in discussions with them, and so we're going to start. We'll have them every other Thursday from 5 to 7 p.m. in the Nevilleville parking lot, so people will be able to come and get food, free meal. They don't have questions. So we're excited about this partnership, and hopefully it will go well. And thanks to Brad and Julia in our outreach department, because they really spearheaded that and worked that connection there. So I think our big thing from the construction update that I'm excited to share is that the Fisheries Friends room is back open. So it was really hard on them to have that closed. You know, a lot of their fundraising comes from the sales of the book. And so to not have that was not ideal. So we're excited to have that open again. And then we're also starting to think in terms of, you know, because a lot of the furniture got moved into the public services area. So just reshifting things and spreading it back out. So we have more space now. Once, you know, we need to get that Toronto clean because we thought it's not working. But once that's clean, just getting reorganizing the space so that it's more user friendly and people have more workspaces that aren't all on top. Molly and I have been doing annual report presentations, and we did those. We've done one for the county commissioners and the county council. We have one scheduled for Hamilton Southeastern, and then Nevilleville Schools. They are still looking to give us a date, which I believe is going to be in early June. And foundation. So I met with the foundation director from Carmel, and she was incredibly helpful. She's offered a lot to help us a lot with her expertise, so she's wonderful. She's great. And exciting news, that job has been posted today, so hopefully our next update from that will be that we have candidates that are interviewing, or that we are moving forward with someone. And Elizabeth has offered to help us, you know, get things launched. You know, it's not a foundation job where somebody's coming in and taking over an established foundation here, we're starting from scratch. So she has offered to help us with anything. She said she's not selfish with knowledge, and she will help us in any way we need documents or, you know, training or software suggestions. So she was very helpful. So hopefully we will, you know, get some good candidates. So if you know anyone, send them our way. Board training, just a reminder, is scheduled for Wednesday, May 15th, and hopefully you have it on your calendar, 5:30 to 7. I can send it, I don't know if you have a calendar invite, but I will send one out. So that you can. And then just a few things of note, just, rearranging the furniture out there. We have a very cool teen program called Cool Careers, where they bring in somebody, to talk about just different jobs. And, that's been pretty popular. And the last one was graphic design. And this actually goes along with a lot of the work that I know HSE is doing, where they're trying to realign what they're doing in the school to, introduce kids to a lot more different ideas of what career options there are. So, we're excited about that program. If you read The Current, you maybe saw Lisa, who is one of our children's librarians, and they did a feature on her Chop Chop Club, which is like a cooking club, and that club builds up just really quickly. It's very popular. And then also in the lobby, you maybe noticed we have some of our new baskets that we purchased. We bought some of those a couple of years ago, but they've been very popular. They're handy for people who have mobility issues that they can use to help them throughout the library, but then also parents with, some parents load up. So it's just helpful for them as well. So we added additional shopping carts. Then one of our teen material selector is going to be the chair for the Elliott Rosewater High School Book Award, which is the premier Indiana high school book award in the state. So I'm really excited to hear that. And then there were the general highlights, but those are the things that we wanted to call attention to, and happy to answer any questions.
Just a comment you already sent.
Oh, I did, okay. Mhm.
Thanks for all the updates. One question, what is once we got the application or the advertisement for the director position, for the foundation,
Mhm.
or what are the next steps once we get application? Is that something the board will be reviewing more, or the library administration, or?
That would be administration. And then we would, keep the board posted, and, after that, we'll have to establish the foundation board and decide if we want to have a member of this board as a representative on that board. There's a lot of work, and I think that's why what Elizabeth said was just, it's so important to find the right person. You have to find somebody who knows your community, who loves your library and loves your community, and can be the best spokesperson for you. And but then we will also need, and we have a lot of work to do with getting it established. So she has offered to help us with interviews to in that area as well, since it's not something that we're used to hiring for.
So legally, how does the establishment of that board work? If once we have a director, when would the board come online? How often would they meet? This kind of thing.
So if you remember, there has to be a foundation that's created. And, your prior staff person, what was his name? John Helling had started some of that work, and I even reviewed it and, redlined some of it for him. And I went back and looked on my system to see if I saved that, and I did save it. So I have some of that, but you have to file articles of incorporation, you have to have bylaws, you're creating a legal entity. But in advance, you need to recruit people who are willing to be on that board. And, I think Melissa's exactly right. You cannot control it, but you can go around creating or recruiting board members who love the library, from the community. And you can decide, because you're gonna have to fund the director initially, right? You're gonna hire the director initially. But you need to decide, are you going to have 2 members of the board, 1 member of the board that's actually on the foundation board, or a liaison board? You don't want to violate IRS laws and have a control entity with a tax entity, you know, a tax exempt tax, you know, but you can have liaisons, you can have, you know, one appointee, you just need to decide what you're comfortable with, and I can start finessing those documents. I did go back to look at your old foundation to see if we could just resurrect that. And, first of all, it was the Noblesville Library Foundation. And then, I don't know if I brought it with me tonight. Oh, I did. And then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 years of missing report that would have to be filed. So I'd have to convince them that we need to change the name of it, update 15 years of report. It's really easier to start over and let that one just lay dissolved with the Secretary of State's office and start the new one correctly the way you want.
Is there any money associated with that?
So there is a bank account with $11,000 that we're going to have to creatively get transferred to the new foundation. But since it's going foundation to foundation, I don't expect a lot of difficulty. If we were trying to give it to the library or to somebody else, it might, but foundation to foundation, I think we can do. But it's approximately low.
So as a suggestion, maybe we, post an application to the website where volunteers would express interest, kind of like what we've done for committees. Like the review committee, we have, it's open to the community. There's certainly no, agreement that everyone will get on the board that applies, but it might be a good idea to start that stream of interest. You know,
I like that.
And we can work with, Kelsey.
okay.
For the director, we did, is that a possibility? I mean, we have that, right, and it's not something that they're relating to it, so, you know, we all probably have people that, you know.
Yeah, it should be. Don't you, is it on the web, our library website? It should be on our library website now. And then we'll post it in some of the, charity navigating. Is that what?
I'm sorry.
There's some like specialized places that we're gonna post it to, for people who have to get back. But yeah, please feel free to share. We want to find someone in the group.
Is the salary scale publicly posted?
Yes, it's on that.
Okay, okay.
Is there still a number on the board or is that decided later as well? You can decide. I don't remember what Carmel was up to now. You don't want it to be 25 because you need to have decisions made, right? You don't want it to be too small because, one of the things about foundation boards is you also want to go after some grants. And one of the common grant requirements is all of your foundation boards have to be contributors to your foundation. So all members that are signing on to be board members have to agree to make certain contributions to the foundation. So, you know, I would suggest that you have like a dozen, 10, something like that, that's not unmanageable, but that also would be willing to make contributions. And that could have decent sized committees, if you want to start out potentially with an event or you need some work for, yeah. Certainly not more than 15. And you may have some friends that were to down to the foundation. And in fact, I may want to talk to the friends about getting folded into the foundation, which is what I did in Carmel.
They discussed that at their last meeting, so. Just, I mean, they were aware that it was, that's how Carmel functions and it's.
And I'm happy to go to one of their meetings and explain it, which is what I did with the friends in Carmel and got comfortable and did it.
Any other questions about?
Yes,
Thank you for giving that, that's super exciting.
let's thank Elizabeth for it. Sounds like we've got another being on help us. The only other comment I had on the report is, I guess, thank you to both you and Molly to going around and giving the presentations to the other government bodies. It sounds like those have been really well received so far. I saw you guys be here as commissioners. Thank you. Any other comments, questions? We will move on to our next item. Another goal for new business. So first we have, first item of new business, library safety discussion. How do we want to start? And Michelle, you asked about this, and I think Melissa, you have an update too, so.
We have an invitation for security. Okay. Okay, so we've been working with Roger from Good Security, and he's been amazingly helpful, and he's done an assessment of both the libraries and went over a final draft with Molly and I. At some point, we would like to schedule an executive session to go over some of the recommendations for that. So the next step would be, he's gonna help us prepare RFPs for the project that we'll have to do. We're gonna need to add some cameras and looking at just other things that we'll need to do. So he'll help us with that. And once that's done, one of the best parts about his proposal is, I don't think all of you saw it when he was selected, but he'll come back and help us with training and so for staff and just designing policies to help us. And it's just been really wonderful to work with on this project and help us think about just the ways that we can make sure our buildings are safe for the public and for staff. Be proactive about things.
Good. I think you're proposing an executive session, right?
Yes, and did we have a date that he wanted?
He said you need about 2 weeks to finalize the draft, so we have to see the revisions to the draft, but we shared some.
So we,
I don't know if we can be April, I'm not sure yet.
yeah, I know you have so many executive sessions.
Important.
Yeah.
So, and it's especially important because, you know, I asked Craig and Molly if we could add a discussion of recent events this week and with some online social media activity that then generated a number of phone calls to the library. So can you speak to that situation and what has transpired and what the security consultants and Treasure PD have to say?
Sure. So there was social media posts, and then we did start receiving quite a large number of phone calls. The vast majority were from people who do not live in this area. So we were glad to know that some of these alarming calls were not from people who live around here who are part of our community. But it was concerning enough, the content that we did. We reached out to Roger to just get advice on what he thought we could do. And he recommended that we work with Fisher's Police, who are here tonight, have been wonderful to work with. We are so appreciative of them. And then they did recommend that we bring some security on site for these through today, just to keep everyone safe. So that was, it has been quiet. We are glad, but we would just much rather be safe than, sorry that we didn't bring somebody in. So, but it was concerning, a lot of the volume and.
Melissa, I think it's important that you state on the record, it wasn't concerning. You had threatening folks. So that.
Yes, that is what accurate. We have.
Because you don't call the police because you're concerning phone calls. You know, sometimes you contact me because you have a concern, but you didn't contact me because you had phone calls. You had threatening phone calls. And concerned you about the safety of the staff and the public. Is that fair? Okay.
So I would like to state something, just for the record that, as a trustee, and I welcome input from my peers, but, this board should not tolerate that type of behavior, and I think that we should send a message to the community that it's not appropriate to threaten librarians and threaten patrons. And, so I think it's important to state that publicly.
And our families, just
Oh, and of course, and families associated, and children, teen patrons are, I know, part of this issue or this matter. And so it's disappointing to hear about that and gravely upsetting.
Was that also for the record as a result of the threatening calls? Did any library programs have to be temporarily suspended or canceled because of the threat out of the abundance of caution for safety?
yeah, we did, decide to not move forward. We are not having the team book club for safety. For the safety of our staff and for the team. We are not having those programs.
And that's for all teen book clubs.
Yeah, we, felt that it was better to, we only have two, but, just to make sure that we are careful with all of our teams, and maybe not everyone pays attention to the title of the program, so we moving forward. But we do, I would say, we are looking at other, additional ways we can serve the teams, and we want to bring new events to the community and hope that this will not happen in going forward. It is really disappointing, and I think for staff and I think a lot of people in the community. And hopefully we move forward from this and
I guess, yeah, disappointing is understating.
Yeah.
It's really disturbing this happens, so I'm glad we're able to get this place here, and I thank them for their work, and just keep everyone safe.
Are they doing anything to look into it further to find out?
our phones do have caller ID, so we have shared information with her. For the necessary work.
And is that how you know, obviously, what areas the phone calls are coming from? Are they coming from within Indiana, from
Yes, from
nationwide?
within Indiana, but then the most concerning phone caller told us where he was calling from. On every phone call.
That didn't say his name.
Yeah.
And the frequency of the phone calls were from
About every 3 minutes for about 8 hours. There were some like pauses in there, but it was a lot there.
And by the time they were calling, you had already addressed the issue anyways, right? From what I understand. Which I think even, Melissa mentioned to the caller on one of the early calls.
Address the issue. What do we mean by address the?
It was specifically concerning us book club. At that point, we did not feel safe moving forward with it. I told the caller that the program was not happening, and then they still continued to call for like the next 6 hours.
Like the same caller?
Yeah, I'm not sure there was an issue. I'm confused about that. What do you mean by there was an issue with the book club?
The safety, just we were worried about that if we went forward with the book club, that, it had been, that people would know where the book club was happening, when it was happening, and just the safety.
Right, so the issue that was caused by the callers was safety. There wasn't an issue before we had threatened calls.
There was an issue with the book that was being used, yeah,
An issue with who, by whom?
with the book that was chosen for the team.
Who was having
What I
that issue?
understand.
Well, the article came out. There's a lot.
So callers had the issue, but call the threatened
No, the
callers.
library as well, right? Melissa, it was inappropriate.
So we had concerns about how some of the programs, just some of the way some of our programs have been planned. We just want to make sure that, all our books are being vetted by staff, and we were made aware that we need to change some of our processes and like how those programs are being planned to make sure that we are fully aware of what is in our material that we're putting out there.
So who chose this?
Our team staff, or our teen advisory board. Or no, I'm sorry, the teams at the book.
The teams themselves.
But we were under the impression that our team staff was reading the book, and we just, I'm not entirely certain that that is always happening, so we want to make sure that going forward that we do have that. We are gonna make some changes to make sure that just moving forward, when we have staff planning programs, that we have our managers planning on these things. And then also so that Molly and I see things, so that we know what is going on, so that we can answer questions, so that we can see, and partly so that we can help promote things. You know, Molly and I are both very good at programming, we have a background in programming, and making sure that, we can help staff as needed, but that also, like, if things do come up, we are more aware of it. And I wish we had done that like a while ago, because I don't like when things happen and we're caught unaware. And we were caught unaware by this, and so that we just want to make sure that we're moving forward when we have programs on our calendar, that we know that, like, how it ended up on the calendar, we know, I mean, most of the programs are like repeat programs, story time. It's, most of the children, so it's not that it's hundreds of things that we're looking at, but just so that we know what we're offering and we can answer questions. And then that way, if the community has concerns, and they can come to us and we can answer them.
Where's the bookshelf?
It's in team.
But there is a request for revisions for not.
We do. I will say, when we looked that up, that book is in several libraries in Indiana, and every library I've looked at, it does have it in their team section. But that one, all books all books that go, like, have the request for reconsideration have to go through the process. So we have
a written request. And the process is started.
Yeah, the process is, yes. So once we receive that, we do initiate the. Our staff will review that material first, and then, write a response, and that will be sent up to. Then if there is concern with that response, then it will go to.
I know too that, all of the team clubs are meeting off-site. Is that normal? I wasn't aware that kind clubs meeting off-site. Is that something we ought to consider having a policy, especially if we're gonna see security things, maybe the type of program should, team program should be pretty much in the library.
I'm not certain that all of the programs, we do have some things, some programs where we go out and work with the schools. So the team staff will go out and, like, during like lunch, they'll, like, go out to the schools and talk to kids and things like that. So there's that offsite thing, but I will have to verify. I don't know. Can you verify? Are all of the team programs offsite?
No, just the program.
Okay. I think it's just those two that. Yes, and then that was a point of discussion about security issues, especially when we look at, once we do our whole, implement our safety security plan, we'll know the security of our space, and we'll have to look at whether that's, and that's something we talked to Roger about, so like, there's a difference between, you know, when we have our adult programs off-site versus our team sometimes. So that's something he's aware of that we're gonna work through when we look at making procedures for the library.
But regardless of the team book that was selected, the threatening phone calls are not acceptable.
No.
The discussion on this point. Thank you for the update. All right, move on to a final agenda item which we added, which was personnel discussion. So just prior to this meeting, the board held an executive session to discuss personnel members with the director search. And of course, we can make decisions in that venue. So we had this the agenda so that we could talk about potential interviews, confidentiality, a few candidates we talked about, and arbitrarily labeled those candidates A, B, C, and D. So I will go ahead and kick off that discussion. We want to use our next scheduled executive session to hold any interviews. So as candidates are out there, we can talk to them and we're interested, pull the trigger before they are off.
And our next executive session, I think, is 7, yes. April.
Plans. We haven't gotten a quorum.
Does everyone want to go ahead with interviewing some candidates?
I would suggest, and I don't, this is a motion, maybe I need to make a motion. I would move that we interview candidates A, B, and D. My concern with C was the frequency of, I can't go that far.
I would not. I
Okay.
would just make your motion.
Okay, my motion's A to pursue with the interviews of A, B, and D.
What is it?
All right, there's a motion, discussion. So I'll say, I don't think we should interview candidate A and D. E could be good too. I guess if there's interest, we should interview her. C was probably the most controversial. Before we vote, doesn't want to say anything on behalf of C. All right, so then I guess I'm going to go ahead and interview A, B, and D. Any other thoughts on that matter? All right, if there's no further discussion, I'll go ahead and call a vote. All in favor of the motion, which I understood to be at our next scheduled executive session, we will interview candidates A, B, and D. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. All right, so John, could you work with our contractor to make that happen?
I do question. Maybe we can make it 1 hour long and we're requesting time to do. That moving a bit longer.
I think that makes sense.
That was me.
Yeah, each person.
Yes.
I mean, do we need to take a second day to? Or we do them all at the same time? And make it longer.
See what day do you have us on 17th? Okay.
There's no prohibition to having an executive session that goes in this room.
No, it's just your regular scheduled meeting. You have to start at the time you post your regular schedule.
17th doesn't have.
Oh, you don't have it?
That's a special meeting itself. Our
Okay.
Next regular meeting will be the 25th.
Yeah, no, then just post it for a longer.
Yeah, it's notice it's long, because I mean, you know how those things go, we turn to this, and things go over.
Post it for 2 hours. Yeah, post it for 2 hours.
And we don't see this as like final interview, but
An initial.
an initial, so they can, because we want everyone involved in the final.
Yeah.
Yes.
We might still get it.
No, right, but that we won't, so this is just see if there's any.
You know, my page is slow too.
Right. Sure.
I think we need a house.
Yeah. Yeah, I think especially the candidates show that we're interested and want to talk to them. All right, so we've passed that motion. John's gonna work on that, with our contractor, any other discussion on topic person? All right. Then I will,
If you have a question, so
yes,
me and me with it, candidate.
A, B, and D.
I'll work with you on it.
Okay, good. Thank you. You can discuss like, you can, that's something we can do, discuss with your, so you can read your content. We actually. Or we just defer to Mara, but,
I'll talk to you about that.
okay, good.
Yeah, because we'll probably have some comments about it. Might be board members out to ask specific questions too. All right, anything further? All right, then I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.